Welcome to my channel.
And this is English Podcast Station.
We're excited today, ready to jump into a really fascinating area, exploring museums and art galleries. You've given us this fantastic set of materials. We've got guides, briefings, some vocabulary list here. Basically everything you'd need to, well, get a handle on these places and maybe even use the visit to brush up on your English too.
Absolutely. And our mission really for this deep dive is to sift through all that, pull out the really crucial stuff, the most important insights, the practical tips. We want you to finish listening and feel, ready, well-informed for your next visit, whether that's about gaining deep knowledge or just pure enjoyment, or maybe language practice. Think of it as a shortcut.
All right, let's start right at the beginning then. Unpack this. When we talk about these places, the material makes a really clear point about a fundamental difference. Museum versus art gallery. What's the core distinction we should grasp here?
It's interesting, right? Because they both involve looking at things, but their scope is quite different. A museum, the sources define it as a place for looking at old, important, or special things. But, and this is key across a really broad range of subjects.
Okay, broad how?
So art, yes, but also things like history, science, or culture. The main goal is learning about the past, people, animals, technology. It's a huge educational umbrella, really.
Right. So if you're in a museum, one room might have, I don't know, models of dinosaurs.
Exactly.
And then the next hall over could have old airplanes or even space rockets.
Yeah.
It's about that sheer variety of knowledge.
That's it. That breadth defines it. Now, an art gallery, also a place to look at things, obviously, but it has a much tighter, more specific focus. Just art. It's purely dedicated to showing paintings, drawings, photographs, and sculptures. Visual art.
And the notes mention that galleries aren't just historical archives either. They show work by famous artists, sure, but also new artists just starting out.
Both established and emerging.
And you see different styles too, right? Like modern, classical, abstract art, all potentially under one roof.
Exactly. And if we look at those specific examples you shared, it makes it super clear. You mentioned Erica visiting an art gallery. She saw beautiful paintings by local artists and these sculptures made from metal and wood.
Right. Very art focused.
Compare that with James visiting the Science Museum. He saw models of dinosaurs, old airplanes, and space rockets. See the difference? One's about creative expression, visual stuff. The other's artifacts and displays covering, well, everything else.
That really lays it out clearly. Okay, so we know the basic difference. Now let's think about actually going there. Navigating these places often involves some specific language. What are some essential words, the kind of vocabulary that's really helpful to know beforehand?
Okay, yeah, let's build that toolkit. A really key word you'll see in here is exhibit.
Exhibit. Okay.
It's simply a thing that is shown. Could be anything, really. A dinosaur skeleton in a museum, models, a painting in a gallery, whatever's on display is an exhibit.
Got it. And naturally, especially in an art gallery, you're going to see lots of paintings. That's, well, art made with paint on canvas, usually.
Right. Or sometimes wood panels, other surfaces. And then there's sculpture. Now, this is different because it's 3D art. Not flat like a painting.
Right, you can walk around it sometimes.
Yeah, and it can be made of materials like stone, wood, or metal. Remember Erica's example? She saw sculptures made from metal and wood.
Ah, yes, connecting back. Okay, here's one that the sources say can be a bit tricky. The word gallery. It can mean two different things.
That's a really good point. Yeah, it can mean a single room within a museum like, let's go to the Roman Artifacts Gallery. Or it can mean the whole building dedicated to art.
So context is everything there.
Definitely. And speaking of context and understanding what you're seeing, you might use an audio guide.
Oh yeah, those little devices.
Exactly. It's a small device or maybe an app on your phone these days. It gives you spoken information about the exhibits. Usually you press a number that's on the wall or scan a code.
Adds another layer. More depth than just reading the label.
For sure. And, behind the scenes, making all this happen, deciding what goes where, taking care of it all, this is the curator.
Right, the person who takes care of the collections organizes the exhibits,
Yeah.
kind of the mastermind.
Sort of the expert storyteller for that collection, yeah. And just quickly circling back to art, the materials mention different art styles, things like modern, classical, abstract, just terms you might see on labels.
Okay, fantastic. So we've got some words now. Let's picture it. You've arrived. You're standing there at the entrance. What's the typical flow? What happens first? And what do you actually do inside?
Right. First things first, you got to get in. So, usually purchasing a ticket, though, as you noted, some places are free, which is great, but many have an entrance fee.
Makes sense.
Then, once you're inside, grabbing a map is almost always a good idea. Museums, especially, can be huge.
Yeah, easy to get lost.
A map helps you get your bearings, find the rooms or exhibits you really want to see.
Okay, map in hand. What next? Just wander.
Pretty much, but the advice is generally to walk slowly. Don't rush. Take your time to look carefully at each item. Let it sink in a bit.
And crucially, those little signs next to everything.
Yes, absolutely crucial. Read the small signs or labels. Seriously, don't skip these. They have the vital info. The title, the artist, or where it came from, the date, often a short description. It's how you learn the story behind what you're seeing.
It's like the cheat sheet for understanding.
Totally. Now, practical thing photos, people always wonder.
Right. Flash or no flash. Allowed at all.
It varies. The sources say some allow pictures, some don't. Sometimes it's no flash allowed. Best bet. Always look for signs with a camera icon, maybe crossed out, or just ask staff member. Quick and easy.
Good advice. Don't want to get told off.
Exactly. And speaking of staff, the material really encourages you not to be shy. If you're confused or curious, ask questions.
Like what sort of things?
Simple stuff works best, like, excuse me, what is this object? Or maybe point to something and ask, can you tell me more about this painting? They're usually happy to share what they know.
That's good to know. Takes the pressure off feeling like you have to know everything.
Absolutely. And then, after you've soaked it all in, maybe on your way out,
The gift shop calls.
inevitably, a good spot for postcards, books, little souvenirs to remember the visit.
Okay, now, let's tackle what might feel like the biggest hurdle for some people. Talking about what you see, especially art. If you don't feel like an art expert, the sources you shared have a really nice, simple way in, don't they?
They really do. And it's so liberating, I think. You absolutely don't need a degree in art history or anything. The suggestion is super practical. Focus on just two things: colors and feelings.
Just those two, colors and feelings.
That's the core idea. Makes it
Yeah.
really accessible. So for colors, you just talk about what you see. Examples they give are like, this painting has bright colors. Simple as that.
Or maybe I like the blue and green in this artwork.
Exactly. Or you could be a bit more descriptive. The colors are soft, mostly blue and white. Or even just, I love the colors. That works too.
Okay, that feels doable.
Yeah.
And the other part was feelings.
Feelings, yeah. How does the piece make you feel? Does it spark an emotion? You can say things like, this painting makes me feel happy. Or this sculpture looks sad. If you're looking at a portrait, maybe, she looks peaceful. Or for something dramatic, it looks bold and powerful. It's about your reaction.
So basically, describe what you see, colors, shapes, subject, and how it makes you feel.
Yeah,
It's about your personal response, not some correct answer.
precisely. Your experience is central. They give that great example describing a painting of a woman by a window. You could just say, I see a painting of a woman sitting by a window. The colors are soft, mostly blue and white. She looks peaceful. See? No jargon, just observation and feeling.
I like that. And remember that specific example painting you included, Annalee's painting
Ah, yes.
from the sources. It's by a Korean artist, painted in 2010. Shows a quiet mountain village in winter. And the artist's goal was to convey peace and stillness.
Bye.
So you could look at that, maybe read the label to get that info. Oh, it's about peace, and then use those simple feeling words yourself. Yeah, it does look peaceful. Or maybe it makes you feel something else, like calm or even a little lonely. And getting that initial info, That's where asking comes in handy again. Asking staff, who is the artist? Or what is it about?
It all connects. You get a bit of info, you react to it, you describe your reaction. It empowers you to engage, doesn't it? Beyond just, looking passively.
Absolutely. Okay, so taking this a step further, how can you really maximize a visit? Especially if, say, learning or practicing English is part of your goal, make it work harder for you.
Right. This is where you can turn a fun visit into like an active learning session too. Tip number one, we've said it, but it's so important. Read the signs.
Again with the signs.
They are gold mines for language learners. You see new words and phrases used right there in context, describing the thing you're looking at. It's brilliant.
It's like a real-world vocabulary lesson attached to an object.
Exactly. And tip two, related to that, use your phone. Well, if you see a word on a sign or maybe hear something on the audio guide and you don't know what it means, look it up. Just do a quick search on the internet right then and there. Instant clarification. Don't just skip over it.
Good point. Seize the moment. And then, the best way to make language stick is usually
Using it. Active practice. So, try to speak English during your visit.
even if you feel a bit awkward.
Yeah, push through that. Ask questions in English to the staff we practice those phrases. Even better, try describing what you see out loud, maybe quietly to yourself or to a friend. Use those color and feeling words. Try to summarize what you read on a label. Remember, what is this object? Can you tell me more about this painting? Perfect practice opportunities.
And to kind of consolidate all that, make it stick after you leave.
The sources suggest write about your visit in a notebook later.
Ah, like a journal entry.
Sort of. Jot down names of things you liked, artists, maybe some of that new vocabulary you looked up, or just your general impressions in English. It really helps remember the words and process the experience. Reinforces the learning.
That makes a lot of sense. And the final tip, maybe the most crucial one.
Yes, have fun. Seriously, enjoy the experience. Don't get bogged down worrying if your English is perfect or if you understand everything on some deep level. Relax, be curious, soak it in, and keep practicing. The enjoyment makes the learning stick so much better.
Okay, fantastic. So we've taken this deep dive into the materials you shared. We've clarified the museum versus gallery distinction, built up some essential vocabulary, walked through the typical visitor experience, found a really accessible way to talk about art using colors and feelings, and gathered some top tips for maximizing the visit, especially for learning.
Yeah, and it's worth remembering these places aren't just dusty warehouses for old stuff or pretty pictures. They are dynamic spaces, windows into different times, different cultures, new ideas. They're really designed to spark something in you, to connect you. So you've got the toolkit now, you know how to look, how to read the signs, even how to ask questions. But maybe, as a final thought, when you go next time, pay attention not just to what the label says or what the object is. Pay attention to that internal response, that feeling you get, the color that jumps out at you, the question it sparks in your mind, that personal, subjective reaction. It's just as valid, just as meaningful, sometimes even more insightful than any official description. What story does it tell you? That's where the real magic can happen.